welcome you this evening. This is primarily Mary's talk. They are her terms. And, but if you want to get to go south someday, you may want to listen to how we did it. But it is my great pleasure, my wife of 40 years and my best friend, Mary MacLeod.
Actually, I bring him along because I really can't do it without him. But what we came this evening was to talk to you about our trip down to the Bahamas last winter. First of all, I have a question for you. Are there any couples here this evening where one of the partners is less hesitant about, less enthusiastic about boating than the other? Yeah, there's a few here. And that was definitely us. I was definitely lacked enthusiasm as we started this project. Some of you may have known Rob over the years. He's been a sailing instructor, an author, a speaker, a businessman. However, I'm a new face to the sailing world. I'm new. I'm really a medical laboratory technologist, just misplaced into the boating environment right now. There comes this thing about retirement. We have to find something else to do. We've been married for 40 years, as Rob said. And when we were first married, Rob didn't sail at all. So over the past numerous years, I've told him it was false advertising. This was not the man that I married. I didn't really want a sailing husband. We did have a sailing school in Hamilton when our children were young. I did the booking, not the sailing. I did do my white sail on dinghies. Kids as they were growing up, we had a CS-27, so there was family vacations on Lake Ontario, Georgian Bay, and then we had that perfect vacation in the BVIs where we were able to take our teenagers down sailing. So although I was not a novice, Rob had always been the boater of our marriage, and I was at best a very reluctant sailor. But Rob had a dream.
I had a dream that had lingered for quite a while, and as I neared my 60th birthday, I said, I don't want to celebrate it up here. It's early in the spring, and it's usually cold and sometimes snowy on my birthday. And the plan was to turn 60 on my boat where the water was salty and warm, and there was sand, and the rum was cheap. So, you know, that was my vision of what we were going to accomplish.
But my response to his dream, I didn't think so. There was no way I was going sailing. What we did have was lead time. I think he started it in earnest to promote his dream as he turned 56. So we had 4 years till his 60th birthday. I should have seen it coming. In the summer of 2006, we purchased a CS-36 Sojourn. Some of you may have seen it on the dock here for most of the summer. And to save money, while our condo in Toronto was being built, we decided to live aboard. So tell me, when does ever buying a boat save you money? But that was his story. So now I had a live-aboard experience to add to my hesitant resume. But I still carried all my clothes in the trunk of my car, and I drove back and forth to work every day, so I was really off the boat. The next year, we took our 3-week vacation and sailed Sojourn to the Thousand Islands, and that's something that many of you people may do from here. 2 days out, Rob wanted to discuss venturing farther south with Sojourn. I refused to even talk about it. I'd found that whenever there was a discussion in our house, no matter what the subject was, at the end of the discussion, he'd gone off, made the decision, and I was still going, but we were just talking about it. So we went ahead to look at exploring some options. The Murray Canal is a canal that travels from Presqu'île Bay through to the Bay of Quinte, and it shortens the trip so that you don't have to sail around the Prince Edward County. As we entered the Murray Canal, we knew we had 5 miles of motoring, so we came up with our Murray Canal rule to discuss the possibilities of this trip south without making any decisions or commitments. Then we were on to the Thousand Islands at the end of the discussion, where I began to appreciate the difference between sailing and cruising. Still not too fond of sailing, but I did really like the travel part of the vacation that year. I was ready to buy a Winnebago. But we had time to research, time to dream, time to rent videos, time to learn, and really it was time for him to wear me down. So on a rainy day in 2008, walking in downtown Toronto, I decided it was time to retire, take early retirement, and that I would go sailing with this man. This photo is actually although it's hard to see, taken on the Hudson River, and it's at dawn on the first official day of my retirement. So at that point, I thought it was pretty exciting to know that I had something else to embrace as I left laboratory medicine. So we could live his dream, had to be on my terms. One by one, we had to work out what my terms were, and I have to admit that Rob listened to me, and I thank him for his concern as we went through these. So this was really, we did go away, we did make this trip, here we're to tell you our story, but as I look back at the year, these were some of the terms that we negotiated. Timing, location of the trip, economics, my motion sickness, the open water sails, and communication with my family. So my first issue was the timing. I was not willing to sail off into the sunset for an undetermined amount of time. I would retire the following August, and we could go cruising. My term, I was willing to go for 1 year of cruising. That was it. The second thing I took issue to was his location that he'd picked to dream about, the BVIs. And the BVIs were a long way down in the Caribbean. I was fearful of the open water passages that we would have to accomplish in order to get there. Although he says it's a wonderful place to sail, it's hard to get to, in my opinion. I was concerned about equipping the boat for offshore passage making because there would be a different level of equipment that we would require on sojourn. Brought me back to the timing, too. Could we actually leave Toronto in the fall, sail for a year, do the BVIs, and get back to Toronto within my time frame? My term, the BVI is too far. Let's look at sailing just to the Bahamas. And I have to admit at this point, I didn't know that we could just do that. Rob made it work.
I taught sailing the Bahamas for a number of years in the Abacos. We used to also teach in Florida Keys and cross over to the Bahamas as part of, I was a Canadian Yachting Association instructor for 15 years, full-time. And so you teach here in the summer and down south in the winter. And Hopetown was, pretty close to being one of my second favorite harbors. Again, a nice place, really nice people. Anchorages are almost all gone there. It's almost all moorings, as a lot of the places have gone in the islands. But you have fewer people drifting by you at night, which is, it's much nicer, and you sleep a little bit better for that. But yeah, I said, you know what? As a second choice, Bahamas isn't bad.
So Rob could turn 60 in Hopetown in the Bahamas, and the timing would work. It was rich in history, wrecking, and piracy. Boating in the Bahamas could provide us with a great alternative. So I redefined our terms. We would go cruising, but only as far south as the Bahamas. So the planning began to go cruising for that 1 year. And that planning year was a whole year, but it was important. There was lots to think about, and each planning session, I came up with more terms. So as the terms came on the table, Rob would go off and try and find some solutions for these. And what we did find, that the preparations that we did together helped shift the focus from his dream to our trip. And that was really an important thing, and when you think what's at stake as you sail off away from the dock.